So, I'm Kenny Mack, very grateful recovered alcoholic.
Hi, Kenny.
I have a surrender date of October 28th of 2018, and that's through God's grace and working this program. Not a very good speaker. Be all over the place, and I do not like doing this, but when Alcoholics Anonymous asks, I do. So, we're going to start off.
You look nice.
Thank you. I work for James. Thought about wearing a Dallas Cowboy jersey, just irritating, but if it goes back to have to wear a tie. One time I did a speaking deal and didn't wear a tie, and my sponsor heard about it, and I never heard the end of it. So, him and my grand sponsor. I grew up in Odessa. I have a running joke. If you want your kid to be in these rooms, send him to Permian High School. So,
We get it.
yeah, I did the Permian thing. Hated school. Didn't make bad grades. Never struggled. Just struggled fitting in. That uncomfortableness in my own skin. And through school, I wore a lot of masks. I hung out with all different crowds. Mainly whoever had the, alcohol at the time. Just everybody got a piece of probably a different version of me. I'd be whoever I thought you needed me to be, so you'd like me, and you wouldn't know who I really was, which was a scared little boy, full of fear. Growing up, I have a dad that's one of us. Hopefully we're saving him a seat. Older sister that's one of us. She's in prison right now. Probably going to serve 10 years. I have a sister that's married to a preacher. It skipped her. I have a Bible-thumping mom, which I'm grateful for. And it was kind of my childhood. In a nutshell, my family dynamic. I have uncles. All on my dad's side, they have drinking problems. They're functional. I have a grandfather that killed my grandmother when my mom was 8 years old, 9 days before Christmas, and he suffered from this disease. So, a lot of alcoholism in the family tree. But growing up, I just never felt like I fit in. I hated life. I was miserable. Thank God for alcohol because it saved my life. Me and my buddy Nate always talk about that because I was thinking of suicide as young as 10, 11 years old. I just could never be happy. Always was full of fear, just miserable. And grew up kind of strict Lutheran household. Go to church, do confirmation, do all those things, but wasn't that I didn't believe in God, I just never really had a relationship with Him. I was kind of agnostic. Thought I was too smart for God. I was really a blithering idiot. Going through high school, like I said, I hated sports, didn't want to play football. I was kind of forced to play football. Kind of had that dad that thought I was going to be something, and I wasn't going to be nothing unless I went to college and played football. Hated it. Quit before my senior year, and he got mad, and I heard about it, and I knew then I was going to move out of the house. A month after graduating high school, I bought my first house. And married my high school sweetheart at 21. And I married her. I remember there was never no spark there. I just married her because she was a good girl, and I knew I could. She was real gullible, bless her. And she grew up in a pretty sheltered life. I know I could get away with a lot. I was going to law school. I was going to be a lawyer. My dream as a kid was to always be a lawyer. Dude, I remember 9 years old being a lawyer. Only an alcoholic would want to be a lawyer at that age. Yeah. But I was working at oil field gig, and I remember thinking, man, I could hide a lot of stuff. I'm traveling, working this oil field gig, and no one will be the wiser. I can run from my problems. And that's what I did. Quit college, dropped out, and never looked back. Started working in the oil field, some oil field trash. Moved my way up pretty good. Did roustabout, roughneck, working on pulling units, did everything you think of. I always had an itch though. I'd always find another job on the guise of more money, but in all honesty, just wasn't. When comfortable, it was a weird thing. When I'd get comfortable in a situation, it would be very uncomfortable for me. Once they got to know me, I'm out the door. Never lasted anywhere in the past 3 years. And struggles at home with my first wife. And I remember, us talking about having kids. And truth be told, I never really wanted to have kids at the time. Now I love them. But they got in the way of my drinking. They got in the way of my life, right? I had to be responsible for something else. I didn't like responsibility. So we decided to have kids. And boy, that'll make me love her, right? So God's always got a sense of humor with me, it seems like. We go to have kids and we get pregnant with triplets. And they're all girls. And I'm like, oh man, you think that'll make you love somebody? Is having a kid that's going to make you fall in love with them? But having multiples is really going to make you hate them. And especially when you got alcohol and, other issues along with it. So we have kids. We have the triplets. And we're just not getting along. Really, I'm not getting along internally. I'll rephrase that. We're getting along just fine because I'm the actor, right? I'm just playing nice and playing. Everybody, I remember when I went to leave her, they were 1.5 years old when I left her. Everybody was shocked. I put up a good front. Manipulation. Stage character. So I left her for another woman. They were about 1.5 years old. And I was still active in their life. And this other woman knew from high school, still small town Odessa. And I leave her, and it was very toxic, but I craved it. It was like a drug. And we're 6 months after my divorce. We're getting married in Vegas. That's what alcoholics do. 8 nights in Vegas. That was way too long. But anyway, so we get married. And everything was good as long as the money was rolling in. At the time, I was working for this is the biggest oil company in the world, oil and gas company. I had arrived, right? And pretty good position. Had a pretty good gig. But those big corporations, they'll do their research on you if you become a problem. I had an ego and had a little drinking problem. And they really frown upon you drinking at work. But no one ever said nothing. So I was drinking, drive my truck around, doing all kinds of stuff. Never really got in trouble. Never got a DUI, nothing. So I remember getting fired from that job, and I'm getting kicked out. And I felt like I lost everything, right? So my identity's not wrapped up in God back then. It's not wrapped up in it's wrapped up in my ego. And if I can provide myself with all these outside circumstances, the nice house, the fancy cars, the people around me, I'll even have my identity wrapped up in them, and everything's good. But in here, I'm just dying. I tried my first attempt at another fellowship that's 12-step before I went to treatment, and I left that fellowship pretty quick. It was going to take way too long to work the steps. I really didn't want to work the steps, and it scared the shit out of me. Get out of there. So I can't find a job anywhere, but I'm in active alcoholism at the time. I'm drinking like a fish, and I have burnt everything to the ground. I had that white picket fence light, and car got repoed, house got foreclosed on. I quit being around my kids because they didn't need to see me like that, and she threatened ex-wife threatened to take me to court and all kinds of stuff. And so I go at my first attempt to treatment. It's all Christian-based, year-long program. I stayed a week and all but. Second attempt was a state-funded. See, the cool thing about that company that let me go kept me on their insurance for a year because they knew I needed help. And I was thankful for that. So I go to state-funded treatment. Somebody talked me into going to, and I'm like, I wake up like 3 days later, and I'm drinking city water, and I'm like, I'm homeless, but yet I'm way too fancy for this stuff. You know, I'm drinking Boone's Farm, Four Loko, and McCormick vodka, but I'm too fancy for this place. So
We relate.
I left a week after, that place, and stayed out a couple more months. This is my run, and I'm like, I can go Passages of Malibu. I don't know why I didn't ever go there. My treatment center stayed. But anyway, I ended up going to a 12-step based treatment center in Midland, and that was the one I was introduced to AA for the first time. And I'll be honest, I used that place as a crutch. I went to the same treatment center 5 times in the span of 2 years. And they always welcome me back, but that last time, I'll go to my last relapse. So me and that relationship's over with that second one. And I meet this girl. I was thinking in my head, my stupid brain, that if I can go all the way up to amends, maybe I'll get a spiritual awakening and I can carry that on. And I won't have to make amends, right? Amends scared the crap out of me. And it wasn't the fact that I was scared of owning my crap, right? At the end of the day, I can own my stuff all day. I'm pretty accountable in that aspect. But what scared me was sitting across from the table from somebody and looking them in the eye and telling them everything that I did and seeing the emotional hurt and damage that I caused. And them telling me what I really did. And that scared the crap out of me. And I didn't want to do it. And so I met this girl on the internet. A Tinder. She swiped right, I swiped right. I let the cat out of the bag. But anyway, and I was living in Midland. She was living in San Angelo at the time. I'd just gotten out a 3rd treatment center stay. That was 3rd because you've been through 2 relapses. And lucky you. So I told her, I remember she called me one night. She was working up at the hospital in San Angelo. She was like, we need to go out drinking sometime. Go have some drinks. And I'm like, I'm in recovery. And at the time, I had like 60 days sober. It was about 60 days. And I'm actually trying to do this deal. But like I said, I'm trying to work up to step 9. I don't want to do amends, right? I'll probably do 10, 11, 12, but I'll never make those amends, right? The hard ones. And so she comes into my life, and we start hanging out and stuff. And I remember one night I had relapsed. She was in San Angelo, right? And she was staying over. And I already relapsed. And I'm not. What's funny is about my last relapses were not. It was not like a hangover, and it was like withdrawal. I went full bore, and I started having withdrawal symptoms. And she was down, and she's going to hold me accountable. And I remember drinking mouthwash on the toilet. Just embarrassing. It comes out the same way it goes in, and it's not fun. And trying to fight withdrawal. And I remember sweating, and she's sticking to me in the bed, and she's like, "Why are you sweating?" I was like, "I put off a lot of body heat, but at the end of the day, I was having withdrawal, and I could not wait to get up the next morning and 10 a.m. hit, and I could hit the liquor store. And I timed it just right to where she went to get ready, and she was doing her hair, and I ran to the liquor store real quick. I mean, just that trying to hide it, trying to chase it, it just wore me out. And but anywho, so I'd relapsed 2 times with her, and she had one time somebody found me in a cheap motel. I was trying to drink myself to death. But the last go around, I went to treatment again, got out, and I went to sober living in Midland. And they hold you pretty accountable in there. And I thought I could sneak with, it's kind of like was it Fred, when he was talking about there's not a cloud on the horizon, you know? Everything was going good. I got a job for an oil company, got offered a job and everything. I went to go get a haircut, and the liquor store was right next to the haircut. I just walked in and grabbed a bottle and got away with it for a day. And next day, I wake up with withdrawal, and I'm back at it again. And she had FaceTimed me and seen that I was drunk and called and told on me like a good girlfriend does. She got introduced to Al-Anon during this time. And I get kicked out. And I get kicked out of sober living, and I'm at the blackout stage, right? And they said I took off on foot, and I woke up 2 or 3 days later, and my eyes are yellow, my feet are swollen. I'd gotten a bleeding ulcer during this time, and it's in October. It's kind of warm, and there's mosquitoes all around me because I've thrown up blood, and I'm dying. And I go to the hospital. Well, I called her to ask for help because I'm that guy that comes up missing. You have to send out search parties and stuff. I'll turn my phone off. I called her, and she goes, "I ain't helping you. I threatened everybody in their life that if they would go help you, I'd go find them and beat them up." You know, fighter. She can fight. I've learned that through my time with her. So she had told my mom. My mom was living in Phoenix at the time, and my stepdad just had back surgery. She told my mom, either your son's going to go ask for help today or he may die. And that probably took some guts to tell my mom that. But see, she had been to Al-Anon. She quit enabling. And I was at the point where even giving me a couch to sleep on, food, anything, that was enabling. I went to that far because I could always find alcohol. So I wake up, or I try to get her to come save me. I had a friend convinced to come get me, and he's a little bitty guy, poor guy. And Emily had threatened him. She said he was in the car starting it up, and she had threatened him. And thank God, Al-Anon saved my life. To be honest with you, that was the first step where it's like, when I figured out I couldn't, we talk about rock bottom, but if I'm looking for a rock bottom to get sober, what's rock bottom? I lost a house, lost a car, lost all the relationships I ever had, except I was about to lose that one, right? What's rock bottom? I mean, you hear it, rock bottom has a trap door, but it truly does for us real ones, right? So I get up and I get myself up and I start walking. Well, first of all, I'm fighting off withdrawal, so it's like 7. So it was right when they could start, selling beer. And I remember the last thing I drank was 6 Four Locos. I hated them. They're hard they're heavy on the stomach. They're so sweet. They suck. But withdrawal was hell. And I walked back to sober living, see if one of them could give me a ride. And my buddy Nate was like, he cracked the door open. You could just see that much of him. And he's talking through the door, and he goes, "Man, I can't help you. Emily done threatened everybody. I'm not going to come help you." And I go, "Man, give me some water or something." And he handed the bottle of water through the door, and he said, "I never gave you that." We didn't tell Emily that he gave me that water till like 2 years ago. That was almost 5 years ago. He was scared to death, and she was still mad that he gave me that water. That's what's funny. But anyway, so I walked to the hospital, and they started giving me the Ativan, the banana bags, all that.
Yeah.
All that. And I go into the same treatment center. This is round number 5. But this was not I'm going to kick my feet up, duck an ex-wife, duck child support, take a vacation, not have my phone where somebody's pissed off, texting me or calling me for 30 days. It's not one of those. It's, I don't want to be here. I hate this. I'm mad at myself. And I remember walking to the hospital, and it talks about our choice. One was to accept spiritual help or go on to the other end. And I thought about offing myself, but I'm homeless at this point. And sober living wanted to take me in. And honestly, I used sober living as a crutch too, not to be homeless. I didn't want to go there. Yeah. I didn't want to do this deal. I just thought if I got the job back, if I could arrange my life back, in every little way. If I got the house, all that stuff, money would fix my problem. Success would fix my problem. It never does. I had it before. My stupid brain, I don't think of, if I had that and I was willing to give it all away for alcohol, what makes you think it's going to keep me from stopping, from staying stopped? It's not. The whole God thing scared me. And so I go there, and it was a bunch of retreads that time. We call it retreads in treatment. It's people that have been in there before with me. And I'm like, so I can't use my con game. I didn't even want to be there. I remember walking to hospitals that I wanted to off myself. But I didn't have a gun. What was I going to do, jump from an overpass? And I'm thinking at this point, I'm like a cockroach, I've survived this alcoholism for a long time. It's going to take like a nuclear disaster to take me out. So if I jump from this overpass head first, it might take me out, or somebody's going to be wiping my ass for the rest of my life. And that's not fair to them. I've always been a burden to them. Why be a burden anymore? And then something, I don't know, God, whatever, some thought came to my mind. Why don't you actually do this deal? Work all 12 steps. You're going to the same place. Actually listen to the counselors. Listen to what everybody tells you. Don't try to run life your way. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about the relationship. Don't worry about nothing but your relationship with God. And I hear in there, treatment, I do a lot of H&Is. We have a treatment center in San Angelo. And I do a lot of H&Is, and once a month go up there, and I hear, you got to do this for you. If you don't do this for you, it'll never work. How selfish would I be doing this for me today? Almost 5 years. I do this to help the others struggling alcoholic, and I also do this to help grow with God. Am I perfect at it? No. These guys will probably tell you. And I know my biggest inventory taker back there can tell you I'm perfect. So I go there. I hated it. I was hanging on by a thread. I remember one of the counselors pulling me into her office and screaming at me pretty much as low as she could scream where no one could hear her. And she probably threw in some cuss words and said, there's a career in recovery, but it's not as a client. You stupid idiot, you're going to die. But going back to where I don't care what it takes for people to get here as long as they get here right and they do the deal. I originally did it so she, my 3 daughters, and my mom didn't have to bury me, an alcoholic dad. I wasn't fair to them. Today, my ego says I do it for me sometimes, but like I said, it's for God. And so I go there. They actually kept me for the whole 30 days, but I was hanging. I don't want to hear a joke. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear laughing. She was giving me the runaround. She wrote me, one of the most beautiful things I ever got was this. I was going through, we were cleaning out a closet earlier this year, and I had this rehab box. Where the first time I went to rehab with her, it was all these little quotes and this motivational stuff and stuff. The second time I went to rehab when I was with her was, you stupid idiot, why are you doing this to me? I don't like you. We're not going to be together no more. We're hanging on. It was, she was going through the emotions of living with a chronic relapser. And I remember reading that 5-page letter she wrote me. And it kind of made me tear up. And I remember reading it when I was in rehab. And one of the guys was in there, one of the staff members, and he was talking to me about God and all this stuff because I was just hell-bent on God. And he goes, what do you think about that? And I said, man, good for her. She deserves better. She don't deserve me. I don't deserve her. She deserves something better. But anyway, I got out. I didn't know where I was going, but I did what they told me to do. They shipped me off to Kerrville to sober living there. It was great sober living. You had to work the steps. You had to be actively working the steps. You couldn't be stagnant in them. You had to have a sponsor. They had to approve of your sponsor. You had to go to meetings. You had to have a job. And at this time, I've racked up $48K in back child support through my escapades. And I was making $11.25 an hour. I'm coming from working for an oil company making, 6 figures plus to making $11.25 an hour on a golf course. I love that job.
Yeah.
If I could financially make it, I would take that job back in a heartbeat right now. But they let me pay what I could because I was actually doing the deal. I remember through my sponsor and her very nudgingly ways to make my hardest amends first, the one I avoided the most. It was to my ex-wife, my first wife, the mother of my kids. I'd done my third step. This time they took a little different take with me. They did it real old school in Kerrville with me. They made me sign a contract to God on my third step. I've never heard of that or done that. They said Dr. Bob, it's come from Dr. Bob's lineage. And because they said that third step prayer is a verbal contract with God, so why don't you write it out and sign it? I did that, and my doctor signed it. But I remember her coming down. It was a Sunday, and I made that amends. She wouldn't meet. I didn't have the funds to get to Odessa or anything, and she wasn't gonna meet with me anyway. So we did it over FaceTime, and I made that amends, and I owed all this back child support and everything else, and she's like, I want you to sign the rights away to your daughters. And I hadn't seen them since they were 7. And before that, I was a decent dad. I don't want to say I'm a great dad because I had my alcoholic problem. I still was selfish in that. But I agreed to it. They were willing to go to any lengths, right? That has not happened. I'm not saying that it's happened. But God's got a cool way about doing things. I'll talk more about that here later on. But anyway, made that amends, and I felt like shit about it. I'll be honest. Excuse my language, but it didn't go my way, right? I'm a baby. And made that amends, and just didn't feel right. And I felt like drinking. I'll be honest with you. I did. I just couldn't think of it. I remember walking around the park, and it was lit up for Christmas time and stuff. And she was fixing to leave, and I wasn't sad that she was leaving. I wanted her there, but that wasn't what made me upset. And I'm not really a crier. And we were walking around, and I said, well, hey, will you just start praying with me? I still didn't really believe in God. I knew a God existed, but I just really just did not want to grasp a hold of that. And I remember getting on my knees and praying, and all I was praying was I was begging God to remove the obsession to drink. And I made a promise to him that I would continue on with the work as long as that he would move. I just wanted to stop drinking. And that next morning, I remember going to bed that night and being like, I got to deal with another 24 hours, which when the mental obsession's on you, 24 hours seems like a long time. And I remember I got to wake up and deal with me fighting the urge and praying, meditating, doing all this stuff so I don't have to drink again. And I went to bed, and I woke up, and it talks about on page 56 was about the minister's son that's an atheist and how he didn't believe in God, and then all of a sudden he questions God, and then he wakes up like a thunderbolt. I woke up the next morning, the light in the room was gleaming. I was light on my feet. It gives me chills. Like, I felt the presence of God for the first time, and it was better than any high, drunk, anything that I've ever had in my life. And it was the best feeling in the world. And I remember my roommate calling the sober house manager, y'all need to come down and drug test this guy. This guy's acting weird, because I was kind of manic. I was just like, I'm going to start a cult or something. I was freaking out, man. And I remember calling her, and she was excited and stuff. Most of the time, I get a lot of questions now that a sponsor is like, when are they going to know? When's my family going to know?
Yeah.
See, that one day at a time stuff, that's not for me in the way I work my program, right? Or staying sober one day at a time. If that works for you, great. That's not me. One day at a time for me is repairing the wreckage of my past. It's giving patience to those people that I tore down and I caused emotional harm to, letting them come slowly back to me one day at a time, meeting this new person, right? We talk about in third step, we're reborn, right? Third step promises. I'm a new creation, right?
Yeah.
And so 4 months sober, I'm still racking up back child support because state of Texas, boy, Attorney General, I had to put them on a 4-step and do a 5th step about that, some inventory work around that. They didn't want to adjust my child support. It was still racking up. I was going into the rears. And Emily was at the point, why I mentioned people are going to know there's going to be a glow about you. They're going to, your attitude, the way you talk, that psychic change, everything you're going to do is just totally different. She knew that it was different this time. She was like, I'm not moving back to Midland, Odessa, and I'll find you a sober home until you get on your feet in San Angelo. So I'm 4 months sober. I was going to the rears on child support. I wasn't going to, Kerrville's hard to make money unless you have a degree. I don't have a degree in anything. And so I went to San Angelo, and I wasn't really excited about that because she gets to call the shot. I don't know anybody there. And it's a little control issue. Go to San Angelo, and I love it. I was 9 months sober. I kept doing the deal, made amends. I chased my amends my first year, even my financial one. 9 months sober. Independent wool company out of Big Spring area called me, asked me if I wanted to come interview. I never applied there. I was like, okay, cool. This time she's going back to school, and she's the breadwinner working at the hospital, and we live in a little 1-bedroom apartment, and but happy. I kind of miss those days. Now that I look back on it, we got to do it first. We got to buy our first bed together, first towels and everything. I'm almost 35 years old at the time. It's like I was 18 again. But it was cool because I got to relive those like newlywed things with her again. But they called me, offered me a job. It was kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time. I was going to be busy, but it provided a lot of financial support where I could make those financial amends that I need to make. Pay that back child support. That was my biggest one. The relief from that is phenomenal. I still pay my child support today. First mother of my kids never went back and made me sign my rights over. Around the time I started working with this new oil company, and they're new, they've only been around since 2018. They're growing, they're doing a lot of good things. My mom that didn't want to have nothing to do with me. Her and my stepdad moved down from Phoenix to San Angelo. It was that or move with my sister, and we got her down to San Angelo. The funny thing is about 2 years sober, and we got this bigger house, and they moved down to San Angelo for us, and we're like, why don't you just come live with us? So I get to help take care of my mom and stepdad, and we thought, well, we'd be blessing them by taking care of it. No, they bless us more. I have food on the table when I get home. All he does is he's disabled, and he sits at home and cooks and stuff. I always joke and say, I have a resident chef and a resident maid. So she went back to school. She had some complications, some medical issues at the time. What's funny is that old company that called me at the time, she had some medical issues and had to quit her nursing assistant's job. And she didn't know. I remember sitting in the hospital worried about what are we gonna do financially? She's gonna quit that job. And her back and her body couldn't take it no more. And I remember that night, God's gonna take care of it. God's gonna take care of it. I really wasn't worried. God's shown me so much through this, 9 months that I was like, man, there's no way, we're going to fall on our face right now. And next morning, that's when that oil company called. I went down there and interviewed. They said, and I was like, it's like a 5-minute interview, and I felt like they were pushing me out the door, and I was like, I didn't get that job. Oh well. And then 5 minutes later, they sent me an offer letter and my email. All right, I'll take it. What has happened? Year 2, I got dry. That's why I know these guys. I was trying a popcorn fart. Talk about the terrible twos. Quit sponsoring. Quit going to meetings. Life. I'm working 80 hours a week plus. Yeah. On call. Job took more responsibility and family life, but it really wasn't. It was all work. I was wrapping my identity back up in work. Luckily, them two and some more group of guys grabbed a hold of me. We laugh, we talk every day. We roast each other, and that's fun. But we hold each other accountable, and we're there. I remember, was it a year and a half ago when I was almost dying of COVID? They were the first ones reaching out. What else has happened? That's great. Year 2, that's all. I picked up a new sponsor, Jerry Green. Started going to a different group. I'm a member of St. Angelo Solution Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. Our Big Book Thumping group. We do H&I. We carry the message. Do H&I, Journey, Recovery Center. They're doing it at Rivercrest. We do it at, I think somebody's carrying it to County Jail. I need to get with them on that one. And we're just Big Book Thumper. It's a great little spot. We're having our 10-year anniversary barbecue next weekend, so y'all come down. You're more than welcome. But I went through the steps they helped me out, and I went through with Jerry too, and life has been great. But you hear life on life's terms, right? We're just living life on life's terms. But if I live life on God's terms, that's the difference, right? This year has been rough. And it's not rough in the spiritual sense of the thing, or even program sense. It's been rough. We started out this year. Earlier this summer, her mom was on hospice for 6 weeks and passed away from cancer. During that time, they found 2 tumors on my throat, on my thyroid. Went back and luckily they're benign. I have got diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. I don't know what that is. All I know is my thyroid attacks itself, so it throws my hormone levels off. I lose my hair, hence why I went bald. Quit holding on to my hair, I'm getting old. So she got to deal with all that, my hormones, why her mom's dying. It's been rough. But it talks about on page 164, my favorite paragraph, he trudged the road to happy destiny with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. That word trudge is tricky because people skip over that. Oh, we'll just go to meetings and everything will be hunky-dory and life will be unicorns and rainbows. No, it means a tiring, laborious walk. I picture myself, storms all around me, walking on a dirt, muddy road, and it's difficult. But see, I got God beside me. I used to think of that, used to be my favorite, it still is my favorite line in the book, but I used to think of it as, my kids are off in the distance, and there's going to be some kind of thing that destination I'm going to reach. The road is the destination. I will always continue it, and life will just happen. It's just what I do with it. I've gotten everything back or better, except for one thing. And I don't say this to pity I don't want pity. We're not immune to the consequences of our actions, right? I don't have that relationship with those 3 girls. It's not court ordered. I still pay my child support. I do what I'm supposed to do. And that includes staying out of their way and letting them heal. And they were 12 when I wanted to make amends to them. And we left it up to them to decide if they want to have a relationship, because this real great guy stepped in my place, and he stepped up and was the father that I couldn't be to them because of my alcoholism. I'm truly grateful for him. It's on the ball's in their court. Every time I'll get egotistical, about every year it happens, I'll be like, screw this, I'm going to force my way, and God puts a stop to it. See, we get so self-inundated that we think about God just working on us and not what he's working on the people that we've hurt and what we've done. But the cool thing about it is, and this is not a replacement, but I have this 9-year-old girl in my life that is my stepdaughter that I hope to adopt soon. We're going to work on that. We're working on that. But her dad is more than likely one of us, and she's never met him. And I get to do all the things that I miss with my girls with her. And she gets a dad out of the situation. And it's a win-win for both of us. And I love her just like my own. She actually looks like one of mine, blonde-haired, blue-eyed little Aryan babies, I guess. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm an Aryan. I'm just saying. But she loves me. She thinks I hung the moon. The cool thing, she's never seen me drunk. She's seen me irritated and probably dry at times, but she's never seen me drunk. And that's cool. And she thinks I hung the moon. I don't know why, but I'm grateful for that. I have an awesome life, and I'm the biggest complainer. I want to complain about things, and I had a spiritual experience the other day, and I was crying like a baby in the bed. And she walked in the bedroom after putting Ava down, and she's like, "Why are you crying? What's wrong?" I'm like, I'm having a spiritual about a stupid song. But the guy that wrote the song, he had substance abuse, and he begged God to take it away from him, and he said he would continue on with his work, and he has, and he took it away from him. I related a lot of that, and I've been going through a couple of weeks, probably she would say a couple of months. I label it down to a couple of weeks of complaining real hard about things, and being overworked and stressed out, and I said it's a slap in the face to God. I prayed for all this. I've gotten way more than I deserve. 2 years ago, I got promoted at work. I got a pretty sweet gig. No more 80 hours a week. I hit 40. I go home. Bye. See ya. I get a decent salary. I get more family time every weekend off. I get all holidays off. I get a boatload of vacation. So that's cool. But in all honesty, that's just byproducts of my recovery. In all honesty, is this relationship that I have with God. All my relationships with you guys, my relationships, just the cool people I get to meet and stuff like that. She went back to school and she has her LCDC, so she's a substance abuse counselor. Not even an alcoholic or a drug addict, and gets to help people. Our life totally revolves around recovery, I would say, for the most part. Recovery and God. That's all we talk about. So my days look a lot like this. I sponsor a lot of guys, and we just don't have the help. And that's the sad thing about it. It's not because I want to, trust me. Or my ego says it does, but in all honesty, trust me, I want to be at home more. But Monday through Thursday, I can come in 10, 11 o'clock at night. And that's usually because I'm working with a guy or whatever. Some weeks it'll be Monday through Thursday. Some weeks it'll be 1 or 2 nights out of the week. And then I come home. My weekends are kind of my boundaries, whereas I don't work with anybody or anything. And they're not worried about me going out and drinking. Ava is starting to grasp what I'm doing. It's like, he's got to help a guy. She asks questions and stuff. And my stepdad asked me, does he get paid to go speak? No, he doesn't. And he's like, why? I wouldn't go speak then. Well, that's you. I got to give him a But I get to be the spiritual leader now. It's cool that my Bible thumping mom living in my house is like living with a theologian about religion, like literally, like knows, like it blows my mind. But she comes to me for advice. Spiritual advice is weird and is bizarre and it blows my mind. But it's great. I have a great life, great friends. You know, I was going to read this. I'll close with this because I can ramble. It went by fast. I didn't notice this paragraph till the other day, and I made it a meeting topic, and it was great. But it's on page 161. But life among Alcoholics Anonymous is more than attending gatherings and visiting hospitals, cleaning up old scrapes, helping to settle family differences, explaining the disinherited son to his irate parents, lending money and securing jobs for each other. When justified, these are everyday occurrences. No one is too discredited or is sunk too low to be welcomed cordially if he means business. Social distinctions, petty rivalries, and jealousies, these are laughed out of. Continuance. Being wrecked in the same vessel, being restored and united under one God with hearts and minds attuned to the welfare of others, the things which matter so much to some people no longer signify much to them. How could they? So, I just think it's cool that, you know, God takes us gutter alcoholics and gives us a great life. That's all I got. Thank y'all.